Everybody's having a brilliant week here at Cisco Live. I've got a very short slot this year. We did a bit of a launch last year of CA Labs and how we're trying to do things differently, specifically with Cisco technology. Well, I wanted to really use this opportunity to double down on obviously the purpose of CA Labs and why we actually brought this practice to life, but also give a few updates and some insights from last year's different projects, as well as some of the projects that we're now working on from a development perspective in current year. So let me just jump straight in. So I won't run through this slide in its entirety, but to ultimately focus on what's the purpose of CA Labs, powered by CA Labs, is really about how do we elevate Cisco technology across security, across networking, and using a lot of the experience that we've built as a partner for the last 30 years, and really finding those repeatable business problems, technical challenges that customers have either with adoption, driving out new value from their Cisco technology stack, and really being able to productize that so it's repeatable, easy to adopt. And really it's also, I guess the other area is about fostering this innovation culture within CA, not just within the technical teams, which are absolutely fundamental to this. Very much a lot of grassroots innovation goes on and how we look at it to productize it, but also every element of CA, certainly from a customer facing perspective, are instrumental to the CA Labs ultimate sort of DNA. So weaving it in over the last number of years into the managed services, into professional services, using these capabilities that we're building, not just for our customers to adopt and hopefully get more value in return from the Cisco innovation, Cisco platforms they're adopting, but also our own people. So a lot of these capabilities that we've been fortunate enough to develop over the last 5 years are being used in every project, being used in managed services. And really, it's been a fantastic and exciting space to be in, because everybody's very passionate about how do we elevate and how do we create value for our customers. So if CA Labs was going to be summarised on a page, really this is kind of where we are from the journey that started very organically in 2019 with a couple of enterprise projects. We were like, wow, this is mind-blowingly great how we can deliver projects via API and automate that service delivery as opposed to kind of the traditional method of adopting technology. So we've built a number of solutions, and probably most of you in the room are hopefully on network intelligence, either for Cisco EN, Nexus, firewalls, or on the Meraki side, and that continues to be our most popular solution. It integrates with various different APIs, but also looking at these different capabilities that we've been building to, again, try to drive more value out of the technology that we're deploying. Outside of that, I think one area that's becoming more and more popular, which definitely excites me and the team, is about how do we create custom design solutions. So if it doesn't fit within one of the out-of-the-box sort of package solutions, how do we have a workshop, run through the problem statement we're trying to solve, work our way back to the Cisco APIs, and understand can we solve it with the technology that's available. So more and more often we're getting customers that love some of the nucleus technology and the way that we can do workflows, but actually want to do a lot more. And I'm going to talk a couple of those custom design projects, but it's really about how we built that methodology, matured it, and now really, I'll keep myself honest here, but ultimately can solve most challenges that customers throw at us. And it's always about how do we produce that kind of value. So to give a very, very quick overview, and I usually do a lot of demos, but I'm going to keep it limited to one. But first of all is what's the purpose of the Nucleus automation platform that we created back in 2020, very much co-innovating, co-funding with Cisco on that particular capability. It is all about how do we save time and cost, as well as increase efficiencies with the adoption of Cisco and Meraki technology. And it's been fantastic across 2023 to see so many projects that have come to life a lot quicker because we've removed a lot of those friction points and a lot of those blockers. One of those blockers, and I'm speaking from our experience, and a lot of the innovation we've created is experience-based. It's not, let's just create a bit of software and see if we can find a market for it. This is stuff that we've been doing every day for, I say, 3 decades. My own experience with having to do room-based pre-staging of Catalyst technology or Meraki technology, wanted to kind of completely eliminate that. So Nucleus very much removes a lot of those kind of traditional touch points, and really how do we get it as quickly adopted as possible and speed up that time to value, time to delivery. And because, as we know with any vendor's technology, licenses typically burn as soon as they're ordered, especially when it comes to Meraki licensing and DNA licensing traditionally. So how do we actually make sure that if we're going to activate those, we can activate them a lot quicker, improve that speed, that time to value, that time to delivery, and actually time to adoption. Sure. So this was a bit of a labour of love. It was a problem statement that a couple of customers threw at me back in early part of 2020, which is cloud networking, cloud security is great, but what happens if there's an accidental change that goes wrong on a weekend, or if there's a deletion of data maliciously, or for example, like a bad actor, or for example, a disgruntled employee. Assure was built from the ground up in-house to solve that particular problem, and it was about how do we have a rapid recovery time objective for customers to give them that peace of mind that there is always off-cloud immutable data to fall back on should it be needed. We get a number of calls every quarter into our NOC, so 24/7 service, on quickly restoring the network environment as quickly as possible. That's where I guess we're looking to try and see how we can create more protection, more first line of defense, and more Cisco technology, and I'll touch on that in one of our roadmap slides. And yeah, it's been a really interesting journey building this, not just from an API integrated software solution, but it's actually made by people, process, and integrated technology. So we've been working really hard with our NOC arm for 3 years now about skilling them up about when there's a disaster incident that comes in, how can we triage that and quickly get network services back online as quickly as possible. And I think the most exciting one for me, and I was very fortunate to do a theatre session today talking about one of our case study customers where we've been able to remove huge amounts of energy waste in their environment and rapidly. So I think about 4 minutes in total it took them to actually make that adoption, but also equally drive out up to 57% of energy waste when it came to their Wi-Fi. Naturally, as we know, the UK is looking at this whole decarbonisation journey. It's about how do we optimise Cisco technology to effectively lend to that so we can save on energy consumption, which then leads to saving on tons of carbon emissions as well as on cost. And there is a case that came out in December on that Wrexham Council story of where we were able to remove 55,000 kilowatts of energy waste in the Wi-Fi and be able to also look at saving 15 tons of carbon emissions. So very high level whistle stop. Obviously a lot of this is kind of available on the website. Kind of here, all data, kind of talk about it in a bit more detail. Without doubt, network intelligence has been our kind of flagship integrated solution for, well, as a service, it's been around for 12 years, and as a platform for about 4 now. And really, customers in the room and customers more broadly are the lifeblood of continuing to innovate around this particular platform. Probably a week doesn't go by where we're not even getting feedback from our own people or from customers saying, I wish you could do this, I wish you could do that. There's a couple of examples even in the last few weeks where a number of our university customers have asked for additional feature requests, and it's great to be able to turn those around in literally weeks rather than months or years. So agility being a very key kind of USP for CA. So I'm a very big advocate about talking to customers, getting the candid feedback. My preference is ugly and bad feedback because I can actually work with that. But yeah, continually improving the product. The solution today looks a lot different than the MVP, the minimal viable product we built in 2019, and it's only because of that continuous feedback loop that we're very grateful for. I'm not going to labour on this too much, but also I'm really proud of obviously the CA Labs team, the way that we've been able to bring all of this innovation to life on top of the different Cisco platforms that we operate and work with. And I think this has kind of, I guess, built that kind of recognition from Cisco as being one of the advanced kind of leading partners in the MEA, certainly for programmability, for innovation, and API kind of productization, and overall kind of delivering that value. And again, back to the key purpose, right? How do we save time? How do we save the cost? And how do we deliver more efficiently? And a lot of these have been for all the different sort of solutions we've created. It's becoming a bit of a rap sheet now, actually. That's probably streamlining it. Yeah, maybe. Excellent. Thanks very much. Appreciate that.
Good afternoon, my name is Gisli. I'm the Chief Technologist for Network and Security at CA. I'm going to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, but before I do, I was kind of thinking when I was planning this, what have been like as a consumer of technology, what have been like the biggest impacts I've had? And I think, long time ago, logging into an internet cafe and using Netscape and like finding the internet for the first time, pretty eye-opening. It's one of these technologies. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The world's just changed.
That was only last year, nice.
That was It's you still use IP over AVM, so it's carrier pigeons. It takes a while. We're getting there.
ISDN nice.
And the second one was the iPhone. You know, it's kind of obvious moment. You know, once you've seen that, you just knew, you know, this was different. It was going to change things. You didn't know how, but it was definitely going to change things. And now it's AI. You know, ChatGPT, hundreds of millions of users in 3 months. I mean, that took, you know, Facebook 10 years to do. And even just personally, you know, sitting down with it, you know, I'd heard a few people talk about it, but using it for the first time, you know, it just blew my mind. It could write like policy documents. It could help me write Python code that actually did something, you know, and I've never written code in my life. You know, I'm technically minded, so, you know, I knew what I wanted, but it's just, yeah, it's a game-changing thing. But I guess any technology has a risk. And you've probably heard a little bit about, you know, Cisco talking about how they're gonna do responsible AI, but I guess for us, you know, we're not writing the AI, but using it, we need to think, well, how do we stop users from using it in the wrong way? How do we stop them from putting credit card information into ChatGPT, you know, putting your corporate information in there? I mean, someone has actually put the detailed schematics for Samsung transistors on there, like heavily protected IP. It's out of the open now because somebody accidentally put it into ChatGPT. So this is, you know, this is serious, and we do need to treat it with respect. We're going to show you a little demo later on with Liam of Secure Access, which is the next generation of Umbrella. He'll show you a little bit how you can use content filtering, DLP, and other things like that, which will help us to a degree to control it. But more interestingly, I think there's going to be a next generation of things to help us contain this. And Cisco have just put on their website, so I'm going to speak about it, even though it hasn't been mentioned yet at the conference, but they have something called Motific, and I'm having to read this because it's on you. This is effectively a firewall for AI. It stops the users from sharing confidential information, stops them from making queries that are inappropriate. So if you turn on Copilot, for example, and someone has accidentally put salary somewhere on your SharePoint, somebody asks Copilot, well, tell me the salary of all the employees. It's going to find it. You know, you as a human would never find it because it's one of a billion documents on your SharePoint. But the AI will find it, and you can ask it questions. And this will stop you from being able to even ask those inappropriate questions in the first place. So there's a whole range of things that's coming. Keep an eye on this. It's a fast-moving space, but it's very interesting. On the flip side, this stuff is really, really useful. It is now being built into all of the products. We have some competitors, which I won't name, but you know who they are. They claim to do AI-driven operations and all these things. Funny enough, we've been doing this for years as well. We just don't necessarily call it that, and we don't shout enough about it. For example, you've had health built into Meraki for years, and it's now really good. The wireless health will give you a quick dashboard and show you exactly where and how people are failing to connect to the wireless network. Is it association? Is it authentication? Is it DHCP? Is it DNS? All of that's available. Obviously, we've had this within DNA Center or Catalyst Center now for a few years in assurance, which again, you know, machine learning, AI-driven, it's all there. And I think we just need to educate people to make sure they understand that, you know, a lot of this is available. You've probably heard, you know, if you were at the keynote, you've heard about the security assistant. I mean, it's already pretty impressive. You can go and ask it, you know, show me all the duplicate firewall rules, show me all of the shadow rules, show me all the rules that are, you know, covered by previous rules, show me all of those things, and then help me fix it. And this is just the beginning. We've seen some mock-ups of what's coming next, and I can honestly say it's going to blow your mind. It definitely got us really excited. So, you know, AI is here, it's real, it's not hype, you know, we shouldn't roll our eyes every time somebody says AI, because it is going to change the world, and it's going to, I think it's going to happen quicker than we think. I think it's going to be a bit scary at times. Some people are saying we're going to see 50 years worth of change in 5 years. And I don't think that's going to be that far off. So, moving on, Ali mentioned the sort of modern enterprise, you know, how are we building networks today? How are we, you know, this could be a retail side, this could be a GP practice, this could be, you know, even a hospital or something big. And we do need to think about how are we going to manage these things. For us, that's the first thing we need to look at. And historically, it's been, the most basic, it's command line. Possibly using Ansible for some automation and things like that. And once you move up the ladder, it's catalyst centered. And the reason we're doing that is because we need telemetry, we need APIs, we need to be able to do change at scale. But recently, as you can see, we've got the cloud as well. Meraki is no longer something you use for small schools and little sites and things like that. It's really grown up. As Ali said, we've got 9,300 catalyst switches in there now. And it's really important that we're looking at how we're going to automate this, because we can't manually patch things, we can't manually do all this configuration. So once we get into the Meraki cloud, or Cisco networking cloud, we have kind of two operating modes. One is cloud monitored, and this is probably not a great name anymore, because when it was released, you could see the switch, you could see the ports up and down, and you could see what sort of application traffic was flowing through it. But now you can actually do config backups. You can push software upgrades. You can open up a console and do any show command that's supported by the underlying iOS. We get syslog collected without having to have a syslog server configured. It just pulls the telemetry into the cloud. You can do packet capture, and effectively we can almost do, if you've got .NET, for example, you can do automated VLAN assignment. You're not really ever going to touch that switch any further than that. And the other mode we can work in is cloud managed, and this is a bit different, because obviously now we're talking about running a Catalyst switch as an actual Meraki switch. So you lose a bunch of features. You don't have the full feature set. And pre-pandemic, that would have probably been a problem for at least most of you in this room. Now, we've simplified our networks. We all work from home or the office, and the office in many cases has become a glorified coffee shop with a better SLA and a better connectivity. Appreciate many of you, big universities, hospitals, you're different, yeah? But for a lot of our customers, this is true. So going into this slightly more restricted mode is actually worth it, because life becomes so much more simpler and your total cost of management goes down. So it's really worth looking at what features do you really need, and being honest whether it's, do you need them now, because things have changed so much. So again, just really kind of to echo what Ali said, we expect up to 90% of our customers over the next few years to move towards this model, because networks are getting simpler. Moving down, we obviously got Zero Trust. Now, Zero Trust, some of you were here last year, and obviously we covered that in great detail. We're just going to briefly kind of compress that, but obviously still really important, still relevant. And even when you go to the sort of Meraki mode of things, we still have full segmentation end-to-end available. So you can still have an HDT, which allows you to give the segmentation all the way from the access point through the switch, through the MX, all the way through the SD-WAN, and you pop out the other side, and you can then honor that traffic whether you've got a Catalyst or Nexus switch or whatever you've got in your data center. So we can effectively do, not true VRF, because we can have overlapping IP addresses, but we can get that true end-to-end segmentation using the Cisco networking cloud. So that's a big step forward. The other thing we support natively is encrypted threat analytics, which allows you to not decrypt traffic but still spot malware. And I think this is important because we're getting to the point where we can't really decrypt everything. It's just, it won't scale. We're going to have something better to do it. And I guess a couple of final things around the hardware platforms. We have had limited scalability on wireless specifically with Meraki in the past. Now there's something new coming, which is called the Meraki Campus Gateway. And this will effectively allow us to scale to 5,000 access points and 50,000 users in a single domain with super fast layer 3 roaming and a lot of the issues we've had in the past. So I think what I'm just trying to get across here is that Meraki started off with a limited set of capabilities, and over the last few years that has grown. Our networks have changed, our requirements have changed, and we feel this is now ready to actually genuinely think, every time you set up a new site, should we do it with Catalyst Center or should we do it with the networking cloud? I think it's a valid question to be asked. Moving on to the connectivity. Some of you may know we do a lot of SD-WAN, we do a lot of underlying connectivity. One of the things that we've done really well lately is work with FTTP providers. Obviously, OpenReach is the biggest provider in the UK, but there's a lot of smaller altnets out there that are actually laying fiber to the premise. And to give you an example, we've just recently done a project for a customer who had 122 sites where they could only get ADSL from BT. That was the only thing they could do. OpenReach had nothing else to offer. We were able to take all of those sites and move them onto FTTP. That's a massive jump. So if you're trying to run a retail shop on ADSL, you're really limited to what technology you can apply. So being able to do that really makes things work better. And finally, I guess we are talking today about SSE. So SSE and SASE obviously come together to allow people to work from anywhere effectively. And moving on to the next slide. When we do this, today we use VPNs, or we might have ZTNA technologies, but ZTNA will not solve all your problems. Some applications won't work through it. So what we do is we ask people to use VPN when they want to use application A, and we ask them to use ZTNA for application B, and maybe remote desktop for the next one, and so on and so forth. But when you go to get water from your tap, you just turn on the tap and you get water. The plumbing has been done by someone else. And it should be the same when we talk about end users and applications. We should do the plumbing, the user should just use them. When they want to connect to a URL, they shouldn't need to know whether they need to use a VPN, a ZTNA client, or some sort of remote desktop. That's our job. That's your job. That's what we do. We should do the plumbing. We should define the policies that say how they do it. The user should effectively wake up, get to work, authenticate, start using the network. There shouldn't be any more to it. And this is what we're going to do, and this is what Liam's going to show you in the demo, where you have completely transparent to the end user access to all your applications, and the user has no idea whether they're using VPN as the underlying technology, because it's a legacy application that requires server-initiated calls, multi-channel like SAP, and and some applications just don't work, and we don't know why. They're legacy. They were developed a long time ago. So again, to quote G2, zero trust, zero friction. I really like that phrase, but it's true. And you're going to see that live in Liam's demo. It's really, really powerful. So just to kind of cover up what's included. Most of these icons will be familiar if you used Umbrella. Effectively what we have here is Umbrella SIG with a ZTNA access element added. And effectively this allows you to get private access to all of your modern applications. But you can also see we have VPN as a service. So we no longer need you to have a firewall in your data center or on your premise where you actually dial into. All of that is in the cloud. It's all in the Cisco Security Cloud. So this is what allows us to make this all completely transparent to the end user, because we have these same policies across the board regardless of how you're connecting. We have firewall, we have IPS, and those are the same firewalls and IPS functions as you see in the FirePart device. They've effectively been containerized, turned into functions, and applied to the cloud. So again, we've got consistent policy across the board, whether we're doing on-prem or working from home. The other thing which we think is really unique is the digital experience monitoring. So if you've seen Thousand Eyes, you will know what this is. This is effectively built into the product, completely baked in. There's no user interaction required again, but it will monitor all of the applications that you're using. And it will tell you when there's a problem, is it the CPU on the machine? Is it the memory on the machine? Is it the wireless connection to your router? Is it your local ISP at home? Is it their connection to the transit providers, or is it in the actual cloud provider network themselves? You will know exactly where the problem is. You can even call the end user and say, hey, we've seen you're having a problem. before they call you. Again, really, really powerful.
So Brian Feeney, I run global security channel sales at Cisco. Been here about 9 months. I was at Palo Alto Networks for many years before that. And and how's Cisco Live been so far? Day 3. Good, good. Yeah. So for me, I flew in. I live in Oregon on the U.S. West Coast. Flew about 10 hours overnight. Landed and went right to sit at a table with Dean for about 6 hours. So I think I drank 5 cups of coffee and 2 Cokes. You saw how I was just filled up right in front of me. I feel good though on day 3. And just, my presentation style is very participatory with the audience. And what I mean by that is I'll ask a lot of questions and I just need a simple hand raise. Is that okay? Yeah. I was at Cisco Live in Melbourne in December, and about 100 people in a room. And I found out later that culturally there's not a lot of hand raising in these types of presentations. So I'd ask a question like, does anybody in the room breathe air? Nothing. No. So thank you in advance for our real-time polling. So I wanted to start out by, before I go into some of my thoughts on this, just thanking the CAE team. We've got a really strong relationship as a key focus partner for us in the UK. So this is a team full of expertise across the board with security, the Cisco portfolio, and we're delighted to be able to partner with them here at Cisco Live, but really just a long-term relationship. So thank you, Dean and team. We really appreciate the support. So we've seen, for those of you who have been to InfoSec or RSA, in fact, raise your hand if you have been. Do the first one. Yeah. You go on the show floor, and for me, the most recent one was RSA, actually right before COVID in San Francisco with 100,000 people. It was the original super spreader event before everything hit. And I'm a pretty extroverted guy, and I walk on the show floor there, whether it's InfoSec or here, and I'm overwhelmed. As a sales guy, I'm overwhelmed. For all the customers in the room, I've got to imagine that's even 10 times more overwhelming for you, just being hit from multiple angles from every tech vendor out there. And so, just not to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine there's some tools rationalization initiatives taking place, making sure that you can move towards more of a platform approach where possible, because this is exhausting, right? And so, what we do is, being ingrained in many parts of tech, we do a lot of surveys. And I thank you in advance, actually, for those of you who will fill them out or who have done this on behalf of Cisco. But most recently, as we looked at our cybersecurity readiness index, 85% of customers said not adequately prepared to handle cybersecurity threats. I know this room is completely ready, 100% in this room, but this is a pretty telling stat. Not surprising to many of us because of the previous slide, right? It's very confusing to try to take stock of all the solutions out there and the point products. And so here's our answer to that, the Cisco approach. You look at all of the hyperscalers, AWS, GCP, Azure, how many in the room have engaged in the last month with any of these? Yeah, just about every hand going up, right? And all these different controls that are out there. What we've done is we've responded with the Cisco Security Cloud, and also, you talked about it earlier, the Cisco Networking Cloud, and this is essentially how we go to market. Everything that you see for security, what we layer in, all the great things that Leon demonstrated are part of the Cisco Security Cloud, really bringing rationalization to this multiple control space that we all live in. So in all candor, I mentioned I was at Palo Alto for many years, and so I took an approach from Palo Alto, how can I go after Cisco security? And I'll be very pragmatic in this. I think we got to a point where over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, we had 30 different point products in security. And that's tough for you as Cisco customers to keep track of what's the clear security vision from Cisco. How do I articulate the story and understand your vision for security? And so we realized that, and we recognize that we have to really simplify our portfolio so that you understand how we're going to market, how we can work together, rather than having to work with 30 different teams from Cisco just for security, not just all of big Cisco, but security alone. And Tom Gillis joined. How many of you have heard Tom Gillis present, or you've seen G2 Patel? Yeah, most in the room. Tom came from VMware, Carbon Black, and then he was the founder of Ironport. He said, here's what we're going to do. Not just architecture, but we're actually going to design our teams and R&D around, of course, firewall underpinning everything, right? But then 3 suites, user, breach, and cloud. And so CAE does a great job of representing how we go to market with this new suites approach, whether it's the user suite, secure access is really the underpinning that. the breach suite with XDR or cloud. We'll talk about that briefly as well too, because I'm only going to take about 10 minutes before beverages, right? I think that's probably a good way to close this down. And so when you talk to Cisco Security, you're really going to see, or from CAE, you're going to see us talk in this manner rather than, hey, here's these 15 different products. It'll be this approach. So security and networking. Last time I flew through Heathrow, I was really pleased to see Cisco signage everywhere for if it's connected, it's protected. Hopefully you've all seen that as you walk through Heathrow, it's everywhere. And that really draws on Cisco's strength in networking, right? 81% of the world's internet traffic is moving through Cisco solutions in the networking space. But then you can have the opportunity to bring security and networking together, this secure networking thought. And so we believe we're uniquely suited along with CAE to bring a very compelling secure networking play because of that convergence and because of our historical strength in the network. And so for those of you in the room who are Cisco networking customers, maybe you haven't yet looked at Cisco security, hopefully we all can recognize that yes, this does make sense from a platform approach, given what you're already doing with Cisco networking to layer in, whether it's XDR, secure access, or multi-cloud defense, what the security piece can look like. So, just a couple more slides. So we really respond to, when we talk to customers and partners, we talk about three things: user, we talked about SOC, we talk about DevOps, IT. You did a great job, Liam and team, talking about the user piece, so I'm going to touch on SOC. One of the reasons why I ran to Cisco after many years at Palo Alto is I actually ran XDR channel sales globally for Palo Alto, Cortex. And I looked at competing against Cisco. By the way, for 20 years, I had always competed against Cisco, whether it was at HP, Avaya, Aruba Networks, Palo Alto. And I always wanted to join the flagship brand, so this was my opportunity. I ran to Cisco, but this was geeking out a little bit. I got so excited about what we were doing in the SOC because of the massive amounts of telemetry that Cisco has. And so when we announced our XDR product back in April, and then it went GA in August, I was especially excited because if you look at all the points of telemetry, whether it's email, web, third party, network, you name it, we had an opportunity to really give you a very clear picture based on all that telemetry. And so we recently announced a partnership with Cohesity as well for ransomware recovery. And so if you haven't heard that, we can certainly dig into it later, but this is just a teaser today. And then secondly, multi-cloud defense. This one is really interesting. We bought a company called Valtix. Did anybody work with Valtix in the past? So here's what they do, and here's what we do now is you look at public cloud and then private cloud data center. Maybe you've got over here, maybe you're a logistics company and you have an app for logistics, and then over here you have warehouse data. And what multi-cloud defense allows us to do is really bridge speaking from IP addresses to services and be the Rosetta Stone between the two. So pretty straightforward. You can have a marketing app over here and CRM, and so where there's been challenges with those two sides talking, we are trying to give you that translator essentially with multi-cloud defense. You need a translator, look at that. And then finally, I touched on how firewall really underpins everything. If you look at the last couple of years of Cisco Firewall, we've really invested a lot in ensuring that it is top-notch from a quality standpoint. 7.2.4 code came out. What was it, Randy? Last year. I'll have Randy stand in a moment. He's my technical leader for the channel. Since this was released, we've seen a 40-point net promoter score increase. That comes from you, so thank you. You said maybe you've had Cisco firewalls for years. You said this last code is giving us exactly what we need. Hopefully that's what you're telling them. And so we appreciate your support in this space. And we're also doing things in terms of ensuring that you have the right upgrade path, the right code upgrade paths. And stay tuned, very exciting things coming in this space over the next few months. So we're going to the home stretch here. I'll build this slide out quickly. Since the CAE team really gave a good picture into what we're doing, this is a little bit about the innovation. And some of you got to hear it in real time from G2 on Tuesday, yesterday, and that was around identity. But if you look at the last year in particular, and again, I joined 9 months ago, so I've been along for this great ride in the last 9 months. XDR was announced. Many in the room may already be working with Duo, but tremendous enhancements to Duo. Secure access, as Liam showed, the AI assistance, firewall, and then of course identity. So we are committed to innovation acquisitions, the Splunk acquisition. It's moving through the regulatory process. We continue to get good news. This is all publicly available in terms of regulatory approval, so we're excited about what that also does, specifically in the SOC, in full stack observability too. But we're going to continue to innovate as necessary. We'll acquire, as you've seen. We've been pretty aggressive on that front. But above all of this, underpinning all, I want to be clear, our approach to working with partners and customers is what I like to call humility with confidence. It drives me absolutely bonkers, and I've worked with some of these vendors where there's an arrogant approach to how customers and partners are treated. Not calling anybody out, but just there can be that thread in the industry. And I coach our teams. I know Scott has the same viewpoint: is let's collaborate. Humility with confidence and true collaboration. And so we want to be delightful to work with and partner with. CAE is. I know that from firsthand experience working with the team. And so yes, the innovation is great, but we truly want to be a partner and treat you well and be there and responsive, as you invest in Cisco and Cisco security. So thank you for being Cisco customers, and we appreciate the path that you've been on with us, and hopefully as we layer in exciting developments in AI, pretty cool. And actually, who was it? You started out with the examples, right, of going from, was it an initial browser to iPhone to AI? That was that was impressive. I thought, those are probably the three ones that I can remember, in my life that really were groundbreaking. And my wife's a redhead, and I asked ChatGPT about some of the redhead traits. She said she actually has some Scottish background, so she said might be a little feistiness. And ChatGPT confirmed, and I put it right there, and she said, I don't believe this. So my first go at ChatGPT was negative for me, but for security, it's been very positive. So I just want to, as I close out, say again, thank you to CAE for the wonderful partnership.